Hey, Kevin Van Dam here, and one of the things that I'm a fanatic about is hooks. And especially when you get into hard baits and treble hooks, you gotta have the right hook for the right situation. You know, and over the years, I've experimented with a lot of different styles and brands and things, and I finally got with Mustad and decided that I wanted to design the perfect treble hook, you know, for bass fishing. And we came up with a fantastic hook in the KVD Elite Treble. And you know, the idea behind the design is that it's 2 extra short and it's 1 extra strong in wire. It's the TG76, and it's the hook that I use for most situations. The advantages of having an extra wide gap, super short shank hook is the strength that it gives you. You know, when you're looking at smaller baits like square bills, especially little crankbaits and things like that, you can put a bigger, wider gap hook on a small bait. And today especially, you know, with the advent of braided lines and fluorocarbon lines that have less stretch, having a hook that's super strong like this really is an advantage because the hook isn't going to flex at all. You know, if you're fishing around laydowns and heavy cover with this, with 20-pound test line, this hook is going to be able to hold those fish. And that's where that particular hook, that KVD Elite Treble hook, has been so good. You know, I mean, I've won the last 2 Bassmasters Classics with it. It's just a phenomenal hook for so many bass fishing applications, you know. But there are a few baits where using that super wide gap, heavy wire hook in a super short shank just doesn't fit the lure. So what we did is we came out with 2 new hooks in the same design. It's still the KVD Elite Treble, but we've got a longer shank version that has just the standard wire, and we have a longer shank version with 1 extra heavy wire also. So now with these 3 hooks, I've got the perfect hook for every single application. So let me tell you what I'm using these other hooks for now. You know, especially lures that balance is very critical. You can't use a heavier wire hook that adds weight to it. So your top waters and your jerk baits, it's very important that, you know, when you pull one out of the package and it comes with, say, a number 4 from the manufacturer, if I upsize it to a number 2 in the KVD Elite Triple Grip hook, you know, that I've had with the 1 extra heavy wire, it'll actually make the bait sink. It's too heavy for it. So that's why we came out with these longer shank versions. So these baits like this, where hook tangling is not an issue, but balance is, you want to have that standard wire. So, you know, a jerk bait like this, I can put 3 number 4s on there, and it's going to keep the balance. It's not going to make the bait sink. And those hooks are longer, they hang farther out there, so that you're going to be able to hook more fish with it. Same thing with your bigger top waters like this, or your finesse top waters. You cannot add weight to it, so the standard wire hook is absolutely critical for that. Even your big crankbaits, you know, that have good spacing between the hook eyes, you know, you're throwing these usually on 10-pound test line, so hook flex is really not an option. So I can go to these bigger, longer shanked hooks that have that lighter wire, and the hooks are going to penetrate with almost no pressure at all. So these situations right here, I can use that standard wire length. Now on the opposite end of the spectrum, you know, when you need a long shanked hook that's still super strong, is on the really big baits. And a lot of this application may not be necessarily for a bass fisherman like myself, but if you fish for muskie, pike, redfish, things like that, peacock bass, you want a hook that has got not only a big gap and is super strong, but it'll hang down. You know, a big jerk bait like this, these big top waters and things like that, you want a long shanked hook or a full shanked hook, but still need the extra heavy strong wire with that KVD Elite, you know, triple grip design. You know, it gives you a wide gap and you know, tremendous hooking power for these bigger baits like that. So now that we have all 3 of these hook sizes, again, you know, the KVD Elite triple grip is what I use the majority of the time. There's so many times when I need a super strong hook, and you know, the extra wide gap in those short shanks allows me to put bigger hooks on it. You know, a bait like this, I can put 2 number 2s on it when it comes standard with number 4s. And when you're throwing this crankbait around timber or heavy grass, things like that, and you're throwing it on heavier line, you want that stronger hook. And these hooks aren't going to tangle, so I can go to that bigger size. So I still use this hook the majority of the time, but there are those certain applications, and especially, like I say, the lures that balance is an issue. You need that longer shank, but you don't need the weight for hookability, you know, your top waters and things like that. That's where these new hooks are really going to, you know, be an advantage. Now I got the perfect hook for every situation. Mustad. Stay sharper, longer.